You're still searching for that breakthrough that always feels just out of reach. What is your true life path, and how do you finally find it? Welcome to Say It Anyway, the podcast where we help you unlock the breakthrough you've been waiting for so your true life path can finally come to life. Each week, we share powerful practical tools you can use right now to start transforming your life. You'll hear raw, honest conversations with people from all walks of life, people who found their way forward and are here to share mindsets, strategies, and wisdom that help them get there. I'm James Ferrigno. I've helped people reconnect with their power for years. I'll guide you beyond surface-level solutions into a deeper way of seeing the world, one rooted in connection, courage, and open-hearted dedication. This is your space to think differently, live boldly, and finally do the thing you were meant to do. Let's get started. Welcome to part 2 of our interview with Paul Helfrich, PhD. Seems like just the last few days, there's been an energetic shift where people have become more stepping into their own autonomy, let's say, stepping into their own, authentic power. And it seems much healthier, not only with celebrities and people of note that I've seen, which I've never seen that happen before in my lifetime, but just with people on the streets, just regular people. So, and interesting to what you were saying about, a certain number of the people, we're all at different stages, and it seems like there's a real acceleration. So the people that were in those middle stages, of average, are in a quickening.
Yeah, they're waking up. People are waking up, and that's the profound thing. When you wake up, you go, "This is bullshit." Finally, you can finally see it. Rather than just, this is the company line I've been fed since birth. I've been following it because that's what the authorities have told me, or I'm going to burn in hell, or whatever the consequence is, and thinking for themselves. And that comes with a whole other set of challenges too, though, right?
Yeah. Then you have to go through this stuff that maybe people like us have been going through. Because I saw the issues when I was very young. I saw the problems with different structures in the society. I mean, from a very young age, maybe 6 years old or something. But I noticed that no one else saw them, so I shut up for a long time. Then I was loud for a long time. But, and I learned some very valuable lessons, like you can't help people who don't want help. You can't change for somebody. You can't get people to do things. You can't really convince people of things. You can kind of open doors for people and say, "Hey, check this out," and they either will or they won't. That's about it. And also, like what you were saying with like the lucid dreaming, this actually ties in. It's like I did lucid dreaming, and I started doing it a lot. I started doing it every night, and I would do all these different things, and I would go into these lucid dreams. So it's like I could just do all these things that felt amazing, and I did a lot of building things and creating things. And tell you the truth, like at this point, I don't know what the heck I was actually building or creating, but something. And but at a certain point, after a few years, I got exhausted. I felt like I'm basically going to work every night when I'm sleeping. And this seems like it was just exhausting. So I stopped doing it. And then I eventually learned, like at the academy, one of the points of the Academy of Intuition Medicine is helping whatever you want to call people, sensitive people, light workers, empaths, be able to kind of close their seventh chakra a little, get into their body and come back to earth, embodiment. And that really, for many years, was the theme of my personal growth, was becoming more and more grounded and embodied and being here. And I realized at one point, all this spiritual experimentation is fun and everything and great, but there's nothing wrong with it. But Yeah, like you were saying, I worked really hard to get here, and I'm kind of wasting my time. My life is about being here. It's about being in my body. And because I eventually saw that like there's several things that kind of link together and all take place at the same time, which was grounding, embodiment, presence, uh, authenticity. Um, these things, like, they come together, they take place. In order to be present, you have to be in your body. You have to be in your body kind of first to be present. That's what being well, or it's just a different way of saying the same thing. um yeah, and I think that's the process of people being able to be embodied and moving towards that process wherever you are on that path is really, really accelerating right now.
Well,
And
that's the
some
kind of, for anybody who's watching this, the teachers that you seek out, the organizations that you study with, you want to have people who are grounding you, like what Jim has just been talking about, because otherwise, it's there's dangers to it, and maybe it's not as productive a path, and it could be fraught with other challenges as well. So here we're both relating points of our lives of doing this experimentation, and it's profoundly important. You wake up from those and go, oh my God, it's no longer theory, this is real. I've tasted honey, I know what honey tastes like now. And
Mhm,
it's profound, it changes you, that this, so it's like by connection, all these other things must have some truth to them, which is profoundly exciting. But it's like there's all this eternity around us awaiting to be explored, and can only do so much in one lifetime. So
mhm,
do it well. Find a way to do that well. I think is really a key takeaway for this conversation we're having.
mhm,
No matter what you do, and stay away from people who are not grounded, who may promise you things or seem to be very powerful and have great abilities. But if they're not grounding you and providing other things that are helping you, stay away from those. It's not gonna end well. There's plenty of cults out there and other groups of experience where they mean well at the beginning, and then something goes down the tubes. A pathology starts taking root in the group somehow, collectively, and it doesn't. There's extreme versions of that we're aware of, cults that have led to suicide cults and things like that. I'm not really
mhm,
worried about that. That's not such a common experience. But for the
mhm,
average person experimenting with these things, who wants to figure out a way to make the world a better place, be a better person themselves, these are things that you need to look at yourself as you're going through your journey, and you will find them. They will come to you, and
mhm.
yeah, you will bear the fruit in time.
Yeah, I couldn't. You really need help just getting through this life at all. But we need to support each other. But on the empathic, intuitive side, the spiritual awareness side, yeah, it's really good to have an organization or a person that can help guide you through that. And like in this area, there's Francesca McCartney and the Academy of Intuitive Medicine that I can vouch for. And then there's books and plenty of things you can read. Alan Watts is always a good touchstone, to follow what he's saying. But yeah, it's really important. I've seen that the majority of groups and teachers that I've seen, yeah, I don't want to paint it too dark, but there's at least as many that really don't know what they're doing as do know what they're doing. And the ones who don't know what they're doing tend to end up in ego. And though they maybe don't intend it to begin with, this is where you hear the stories of them taking people's money or sleeping with the people or do whatever it is they're
Right.
doing. Their
Right.
ego has just convinced them that, this is the right thing to do. So you do have to watch out for that. It's, in my estimation, my personal experience doesn't mean this is the whole world, but it's maybe roughly half. So looking for people who are trustworthy and trust your own, as far as picking the teacher, you kind of got to trust your own intuition for that. Somebody who's seems stable and clear and grounded and not too isn't promising you anything or asking a lot from you, when the amounts of money get too big, it's like,
Yeah.
maybe something's going on here.
Yeah. What's up with that?
Yeah. But also looking into it, if you're buying something really expensive, well, it does cost a lot of money. If it's this huge workshop thing where you get accommodations for several nights, well, yeah, that's going to cost some money.
Yeah.
But,
Absolutely.
but if it's just give me money, to sit here and, do something for a few hours, it's like, well, yeah. Yeah. So, but you just have to use your own judgment for that. But I do recommend finding somebody out there. There's so many good people out there.
There
You
are.
can even message me and I'll send you a list if you want them, depending on what area you're in.
And while we're
Yeah.
on the topic, Jim, I'll just say
Mhm.
Joanne and our good friend Chris Johnson, who lives in the UK, created a course on the Seth material. It's on ThinkQuest. Um, but
Mhm.
if you go to newworldview.com, it's there. There's a link to it, and it's very affordable these days. The original price was over $700. I think it's $149. It's an 8-week course
Mm.
filled with all kinds of, it's really condensed. It's not a capitalist endeavor on our part, just to cover expenses, basically. And it's
Mhm.
there, and it's a great introduction to the 46 books that Jane Roberts produced, weren't published in her lifetime, but after her posthumously,
Mhm.
those books came out. And it's an introduction to the foundation. It connects the dots between the major theoretical parts of the material. And it's a
Mhm.
great way to start your exploration of the Seth material if you're interested in something like that.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. And I do, for those who don't know, probably should have mentioned this earlier, but Jane Roberts was a channeler in pretty much the 80s, for the most, maybe late 70s, 80s, and who channeled a being called Seth. And her husband, Robert, wrote down all these sessions and they created, yeah, like you were saying, many books from this. And those books are available online. People usually start with Seth Speaks, or what's the other one? The Nature of
The
Personal
nature, and
Reality.
those are heavy duty tomes. Those are not easy reading. They're
No.
big. There's a book called The Seth Material that Jane wrote, which is her interpretation of the first 5 years of the material. That's a great introduction
Mm,
to it. And just to clarify Jim's comments, who she started in the early 60s, Seth came
uh,
through, and she passed in 1984. So
mm,
she channeled for about 23 years and Seth produced at least 14 books.
mm,
She was a trained writer, so her writing intelligence was highly developed. So it makes sense that a source that comes through her would take advantage of that. But to deliver, the thing that always struck most of us is that these books came through unedited. They came through finished. This is revealed material, comes through finished. It's not edited. When I'm working on my musical and my themes and my
mm,
orchestrations, that's the 90% perspiration, 10%
yeah.
inspiration thing that most of us go through. But these books came through pure inspiration. They came through finished, and they struck a chord in the readers. Something resonated when I was 21 years old reading Seth Speaks, had a profound epiphany. Like, this is one of the most,
Oh,
important additions to my education that I could think of at the time. So, yeah, and these are hard to find, but there's plenty of sources out there like that too.
yeah, absolutely. My experience was the same. I think I read Nature of Personal Reality first, and I spent a lot of time with that book.
Yeah, me too.
It
At
really
least
changed.
3 times in the first 3 years going
Yeah.
through that. And it made a profound effect on me. I mean, you get what you concentrate on is one of the mantras.
Mm-hmm.
You form your own reality. And
Mm-hmm.
it helped me from being a procrastinator to taking the point of power is in the present. There's another mantra from that book. And that's where
Mm-hmm.
we take action and where we create in the moment point. So, learning to be a conscious creator is creating in the moment, and how that works continuously through a 24-hour day, 7-day week, etc., throughout a lifetime. something profound that was given to me as a blessing back there in the 70s. And that trail that I took after that is completely based on that interaction. So that's just giving a big thumbs up for the Seth material and Jane Roberts for anybody who hears this.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely want to check it out if you haven't heard about it.
Yeah, it changed my life as well. It's a really, yeah, for me, it's one of the pillars, one of the things that I always return to when I'm testing the validity of something, or I tend to compare to the Seth material and see how it compares to that when I get new
Yeah.
information.
It's a gold standard. We call it our gold standard. It's the same thing. You compare it to that. If it's better than that, great. Replace it and go for it. But a lot of it is not. A lot of it's not as good, or is meticulously crafted and internally consistent over a period of years.
Yeah, it's interesting. It came through like that. Yeah, my two monologues that I had mentioned were like that as well. They were just done. There was nothing had to be done to it.
That's channeling. Yeah. See, you're
Wait,
a channeler.
That's the one I don't do. Is the one I do. Yeah.
So there's your neuro-linguistic program. That's what you do. You do that. You are a channeler. You have that innate ability to do it. We all do. Yeah. Everybody has the ability to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I noticed with all those intuitive things, I think, I just have the ability for all of them. I think what I was thinking of channeling was speaking it. And I think I had a fear of being possessed, or something.
Sure.
So I pushed it away. But then I guess it just came out in writing.
It's funny, Jane wrote about this many years ago. When she first started, she walked around the apartment while she channeled, like as though if some demonic force was present, she could escape and run out the door. And then finally, at some point, months or the first year or so, till she finally sat down to do the session work, that she was comfortable going into the trance state and not just walking around like a nervous Nelly. But so this is a whole process that people go through. And another point, Jim, too, is we can't all be Beethovens and Stravinskys and Stradivarius virtuosos. We can, but we can be the Beatles, or we can just be the bass player in Spinal Tap, or whatever, and be the best damn bass player in Spinal Tap that you can be. There's plenty of room for that too, with these abilities and what comes through. So, we have a gold standard in a bar that's there, but the creativity is our birthright, and something that everybody should be encouraged to pursue and get out of that soul crushing relationship or job situation or family situation that's not helping you become the person you want to be, and find your way through that.
Absolutely. And let's see. Do you think there's any misconceptions or any you'd like to address that people maybe have about metaphysics or channeling?
Sure. There's lots of misconceptions about what it is, what it isn't. So again, in the work that I did, and this is work from 25 years ago, I spent a good 8-9 years really full-time researching this and coming up with a theoretical framework. But you have conscious channeling on one end of the spectrum and unconscious channeling, where the egoic self is in a sleep state and they come back up from a very dreamy thing. The conscious channelers in an alpha is not quite as deep a state. They are relaxed and whatnot. So there's a spectrum there of what's possible. And again, when you think about it, it's not as good for the outer ego to not know what's going on and have this other great divine source come through and deliver stuff. These phenomena on that end of the spectrum happen to make a point. There's people who can draw with both feet and both hands 4 drawings at once, and they're working on this. And it's like, how does the neurology, as a keyboard player, I've got my left hand and my right hand, I've got that binary thing going on, left hemisphere, right hemisphere, as a musician. But how do you have an image where you're doing two hands, left hand and right hand, and 2 feet, and
Hmm.
it's a Rembrandt realistic kind of drawing. That's not the normal. We aren't all going to be virtuosos like that too. I guess I'm trying to.
Hmm.
You asked about misconceptions. There's a
Yeah.
virtuosity. There's virtuoso expressions of this intelligence, as I just mentioned a couple of cases of. But the rest of us, though, the meat and potatoes, rest of us shouldn't let that stop us from
Hmm.
experimenting with things too. So you just draw with one hand and paint with, and create beautiful art with one hand. You know, that's another thing. Beautiful, inspired artistry is so important. And in our military industrial society, and of necessity, it's a military industrial world we live in. We need all of that, unfortunately.
Hmm. Yeah.
The arts are not heavily supported and developed. And so we're sitting here as a grassroots people,
Hmm.
promoting that and knowing how important it is. It's the first thing to get cut in the budgets. I saw this in my school periods of time, but that's why I went into Waldorf education. That
Hmm.
you're charged as a Waldorf educator to be artistically inclined, so that music, painting, speech, all of it is demanded that you develop that. So it was a great environment for me to go and play in for 15 years, and no regrets at all. But
Yeah.
the artistic impulse is really important, and needs help out there, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, because artistic, it's a key part of, I think, just being human. That's part of the definition of being a human is creativity. And I mean, especially music and dance, but other forms of art as well.
Yeah.
And, and I've eventually, been with different communities where people sing together and play music. And I eventually realized, years ago that, wait a second, all humans did this until very recently, until the Industrial Revolution, really. And even after that, even more recently, have fewer and fewer people participated in that until like they created this music industry where, and even when I grew up, a concept was that there's a few famous people who make money off of music and everybody else, is an audience.
It's a hobby. Yeah.
Yeah. Or it's, even if it's a hobby, it's like, it's rare. There's only a few people who have music as a hobby, whereas really it's everyone not only can, but really should be doing some of that, just in order to be healthy human being, some level of it. And I don't think there's anyone who can't do anything. I know that even severely disabled students I've had can, you know, still participate to some degree, with whatever type of singing or music or something like that. And I think that's a good shift. I think in a way, what I've seen, like the breaking down of the music industry, just as an example of, I think maybe all other areas of human endeavor, as it's kind of fallen apart over the last 30 years, it's like, I think spawned a lot more working musicians, so that there are all these people now, I think a larger number, though they're making far less money because they're not super famous, but they all have these little followings, kind of like people on YouTube or whatever. So you have these smaller people with smaller audiences, much smaller audiences, but there are people that can just, you just make a living being a musician like you would be a teacher,
Right.
you know? And there's a lot of that. And at first, when I saw that occurring, I went, oh no, it's all falling apart. But really, it's falling apart to build something better. I think we're moving into
Exactly.
an area where a better thing is being built, even though it's different. And I can see that with a lot of the other uh, economic democratic structures, kind of crumbling. But there, something better is getting built, in there. Something is, there's a plan. You know?
Well, the challenge, it's just in this country,
Mm,
we no longer see it as Democrat, Republican, as party based. It's really
yeah.
developmental layers. And you have an oligarchy of billionaires
Mhm.
and a concentration of wealth and power.
Mhm.
And this is 100,000 years old. This is not new. It's been
No,
as there have been
always.
communities of tens of thousands of Homo sapiens. Concentrated wealth and power has been there, has been part of the politics and developmental uh, currency of the experience. So this is not. It is what it is, but it's we should be clearer about when does the day come where a person wakes up and realizes it's immoral to control that much capital, to be a billionaire. It's not your money. And there's a lot of OPP, OPM, other people's money.
Mhm.
To be a billionaire, you're getting other funding and this and project. You've learned to play this shell game out at that part with your community of 3,000 of you billionaires out there right now doing that. And I've only met one, well, two, that I know are highly developed individuals and would not use their wealth and power to hurt people. They're doing good with
Mhm.
it and helping animals and helping other people with it. But there's a lot of people that's just who dies with the most stuff. I win. If I die with the most stuff, I win.
Mhm.
If I become the first trillionaire, I win. What do you win? What do you win? Anyway, I think it's
Yeah.
immoral and
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to have anything to do with it. I'm comfortable in my financial situation, which we're very comfortable. And
Mhm.
we worked hard to be where we're at and did it the old fashioned way, earned it. And we're comfortable doing what we're doing, but we're very careful with what we consume, what we spend, and with just the two of us here. So, it's like if more people were tuned into that with who hold the wealth and power, you'll see a different world completely. But we're nowhere near that, and it may not
Mhm.
happen in my lifetime. I just turned 70 last year. I hope I got
Mhm.
another 20 or so years left in me. I think I
Mhm.
do, but even then, what's that? 2046 by 2050. Um,
Mhm.
I don't expect the world to be that much. I expect it to really be going through these growing pains that we're seeing, these
Yeah.
epicycles of things economically and socially will continue. But as long as we can keep records, you know, so much knowledge gets lost when the Vandals come in and burn down the library at Alexandria. All of the
Yeah.
stuff that all the true human physical experience that was there to be shared that was destroyed. So, digital protection of the world's knowledge is happening right now too. So there's never been access to more knowledge. I mean, I could spend the next 20 years just reading literature and philosophy and so on. And I probably will do a little bit of that.
Mhm.
But there's a lot out there for people to do, but so many people are caught up with just survival, paying their bills, getting to the job, getting the kids out to school, and going through that. It's still they're not, and the people who can make that easier for those people are not doing that. And it's a moral imperative that when you do the spiritual work and you wake up to it, that you speak out about that and you do what you can do to help.
Mhm. Yeah, I like, there's an answer that Noam Chomsky gave to 2 different questions. One was, "What do you think of capitalism?" He said, "I don't know. I think we should try it and see if it works or not." And he said the same thing about democracy. And if you look at it, these are words meant to describe a certain type of organization on paper, but something things that have never really existed in the real world. So, uh, maybe it's time to try one of those things and or both of them and see what happens. You know,
Yeah,
um, there's a lot of talk about democracy, but the United States was never a democracy. It was never meant to be. It has some democratic elements or had. It still has some. Um, but I think really trying that for real. like the direct democracy that they had in like Porto Alegre, Brazil, or the Italian city-states after World War II. There's a lot of examples where people did build democratic governments, and I think maybe it's time to try something like that. Some crazy idea like that. I think first peoples have to wake up and realize that there isn't one and never has been one, at least here, not on any huge scale. Small towns, maybe. Yeah, so that's something to try. And capitalism as well. There's never really been a market economy. They talk about it, but it's completely controlled. So it really did that either. So it'd be interesting to see, what happens. I think if the examples that I've seen of true like participatory democracy, direct democracy, whatever you want to call it, there's a million different ways to do it. They seem to work out pretty well for the people of the area. Usually at the city level is where we've seen it. Be interesting to try that. Yeah, maybe that's in our future. We'll see what happens.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, well, who knows?
That's the $1 million question, isn't it?
Yeah.
What system of economics, political system is the most efficient for the greatest number of people?
Yeah, and there's like the Zapatista method for electing people, which seems to work better than the system we have now, where you elect groups of people. You don't just elect one individual from an area. You pick several people, and then they go to the next level. And you have larger groups of people, and if you think about it, the larger the legislature, the more representation people have. If you limit it to a small number of people aren't going to have much representation. So that's another idea that has been tried and seemed to work when it was done. But it's just going to be a lot of experimentation, I think, coming up.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's like a world war or some global pandemic that kills a third of the population. I mean, those are the kind of forces that force a shift of
like
things,
now,
to happen. People out of their own free will sitting around talking about it will never accomplish it. It just won't happen.
Yeah.
So, and Jane Roberts, back to her, wrote a book called The Individual and the Nature of Mass Events. And it was Seth looking at big mass events and how in the spiritual world, what he calls framework 2, there's sort of a source world of these political, economic things bubbling up that come into physical manifestation, and how that collective reality creation, co-creation happens, and collective manifestation happens. So there are mass events and probable events, trying to bubble up and trying to find their way through and come in. I just, I'm an optimist at the end of the day, and I have a good feeling about humanity in spite of its many, many challenges, and that, this is a good, safe universe. Seth talks about the concept of a safe universe. Says it seems ridiculous to even imagine that it's safe. Everything's trying to kill you and eat you in a predatory way. But when you when you make your peace with it and you find a way to understand that this world is here to nurture your greatest fulfillment, and you get in tune with that, wonderful things happen. Love happens, and love does conquer all. It's a cliche, but that loving force, a loving light, whatever you want to call it, shines through and conquers and finds its way to manifest through any darkness. So want to wrap up with a positive kind of outlook that we have our work cut out for us, but we're here with a purpose, and we're immortal. Oh, by the way, we're immortal, not this body. This body isn't immortal. And don't confuse that. But once you leave it, there's a whole other journey to be part of, and that's documented, well documented. That's a whole other topic for discussion.
Yeah.
The afterlife and reincarnation and other ideas like that.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there, but yeah, I'm an optimist, I think, as well. I mean, I'm certain things are going to shake out. I don't think it's going to be easy, and I think there's going to be a lot of pain, but I think some better structures and some more awareness is, I think I can see it already starting. I can see it already being built.
Yeah, and it can't hurt.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the world we live in. Why don't we pivot over to music? So you've been doing mostly music lately. So maybe talk about how you're, like, what you've been doing, what you have coming with music, and how it intersects with the Seth material and
Great.
your psychological work. I don't think we talked too much about psychological work.
Great. Yeah. Well, musically, I would describe myself as a neoclassical prog rock composer. So, in the palette that we have today to compose with, scales, endless harmonies, endless timbres, endless tone colors, noise, speech, other elements. We have this incredible tapestry, the toolbox. I call it my toolbox. But at the end of the day, you have to focus on 8 bars and get something down on paper or in the digital audio workstation, and build on that and build your song and your arrangement and whatnot. I am also following AI carefully, and it's neutral, inherently neutral. It can be used for good or evil, and it's being used for both. It will be used for both. But in terms of music, uh, there's a product called Suno, and you basically, it's prompts. It's like ChatGPT. You put in musical prompts. Give me a verse about this with these lyrics. Give me a chorus with this feeling tone, or like so and so. Put in a heavy metal, drum fill here. Put in a Latin brass accents. And you put this in on prompts. You run it, and it comes up and produces like a 3-minute song for you that sounds realistic a lot of the time. And it's available in what are called stems, like a plant metaphor. So you have your vocal, bass, drums, guitar, keyboards kind of stem, and you can mix those individual things. But one of the challenges is people start to become prompt engineers, and they think they're composers. So don't fool yourself. You don't know crap about a musical scale or harmony or voice leading or what works in anything that is the hard-earned thing that you learn as a trained and practicing musician over decades, your 10,000 hours of mastery. But still, and just while I'm working, a big breakthrough for me has been voice synthesizers. Uh, It's AI. It's considered AI, but they record human beings. They are licensed. They're ethical. They pay people to record their voices. I pay a software fee is hundreds of dollars, and it adds up over time, thousands of dollars. So there is an income stream based on this. But I now have choirs and individual singers, and I can control their phonemes, the 44 phonemes in the English language. There's a phoneme editor. I can go in and tweak if the word friendship, I was working on a piece in the word friendship, it was coming out as wrenship. The F wasn't being pronounced. And I learned how to use the phoneme editor. I was like, oh my God, I can control this. I can shape and do demos. I can control demos. And I can also then write notation to give to real musicians in a studio to record real music as well. So I'm the real deal as a trained composer after all these years. I'm like a kid in a candy shop. And there's, which videos to watch, which things to look at. There are so many free online courses for music, mixing, producing, and mastering engineering. Those are the 3 areas of producing, mixing, and mastering. Is where you produce the music, then you mix it, and then you master it. And I'm learning all of those. I've been spending the last 15 months really. I've been trained on that decades ago, but I'm catching up with all the tools that I now have virtually.
Yeah.
And, compressors, equalization, and saturation, and other modulators that color the sound and make it the secret sauce. How do you make those drums kick? How do you make that guitar cut through this and that? that's where the secret sauce of all this comes in. So I'm having a blast with that. And again, having a choir that I can write notation, import a MIDI file, bring up that MIDI file, the words are there. I hear the choir sing it, and I can then shape it and fix it is just a joy. And it's great for demoing things and then going into the studio. I'm at a professional level in my capacity, but I'm retired and I'm really a gifted amateur, what Seth would call a gifted amateur with it. But you take these demos and then you can go into the studio. You give the demo to the singer so they can rehearse the song and the lyrics. And then because you're paying for the engineering for the session to record that, and then you'll pay engineers to mix it for you as well. You want to use all that time efficiently, and these tools now let you do your arrangements and other stuff, do the pre-work before you go into the recording and paying for that part of it. You can do that at your own time, and it's tremendous. So, and then what lies ahead for me, because we're working on these musicals, and it seems very practical, and we will look into getting it performed locally at the Milton Theater here in Delaware in the coming years, once it's finished, as we get through it and can get it on the schedule, and it'll be whatever to do that. But I have a couple of symphonies that I wrote 40 years ago as I was learning orchestration and development and form and how form works in different sections and different movements together. And I've heard them in my head and my heart, but I want to make demo versions of them as well so that I can at least give them to other people too. So that's sort of what's lying ahead for me in the musical area. And again, artistic creativity is just it's I look forward to getting up every day. I do have my morning routine from 7 to 9, and then 9 a.m. I'm in the studio till about 3, 4 o'clock. I put 6 or 7 hours in. I may do another session at night from 8 to 10, depends how things are going. But and then I take some time off. I go hiking with my older brother every Friday for 2 hours from 10 to 12. We go to the state parks. We were in an Iceland, literally, because it
Oh,
snowed.
wow.
It snowed and then rained, and it's like 2 inches of solid ice out there now. In the trails in the state parks, the hiking trails, the biking trails are just filled with ice. So and the wind chill was below zero today, which was invigorating. So these are all things that keep me balanced, keep me in the physical world, keep my body healthy, and sitting there in the studio hour after hour, which I have the temperament to do that. To be a real film composer or a composer, you have to spend months sitting at your desk, writing and arranging. It's just what you do. It's what the job is. So I learned that early on. I couldn't make a living from doing that. I went into education, science education,
Mhm.
elementary school, and new age education, and those sorts of things to make a living and make ends meet. But now I'm at that point where uh, a well-earned rest, so to speak, from the grind of having to generate income, and I can do this. So
So this is the thing that truly gives you like joy and purpose.
absolutely, yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Absolutely. Playing music, playing. In college, I was in the wind ensemble and did some time in the orchestra as a second flute or third flute if they need an extra flute player. So I have experience playing with orchestras and whatnot. So I heard that music early on during
Mm.
my formative time. So yeah, being able to realize it in the studio and know that I can leave a legacy of written scores behind me that if anyone's interested in it and they want to reproduce it, I will leave them with the means to do that. So that excites the hell out of me too. I don't have to be around to hear it and know, maybe something will click. You never know, right? How many
Mm-hmm.
painters were not famous in their lifetime after they pass and whatever their brand builds, and suddenly they were the vanguard of a movement. It turns out nobody knew it at the time when they were alive. So
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. So you just got to stick to it and do your damn best every day and pedal to the metal and try to keep equilibrium, keep your health, your sanity in these crazy times. And
Yeah.
the rest will take care of itself. It really does.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So I just want to be clear on some of these things. So you have a program that has an AI where you're able to make all the sounds of a composition.
So here's the
and you
thing.
can listen to it and it sounds.
I'll
Yeah.
go up another level. Here's what I've
Yeah.
discovered. This is the next 10 years in music software in the music business for film scoring, TV scoring, composing. I want to be able to have my digital audio workstation where all the tracks are up there, all the plugins are there for virtual instruments, virtual this and that. I want to have my digital audio workstation. I want to have notation software that's in there. So I can pull up my notation software, work out something, put it in notation, and it goes right into the track. So I don't have to import a MIDI file. That'll be behind the curtain now. See, there's all these different pieces that I've kludged together over the last 40 years and many of my peers out there. So you have the digital audio workstation, you'll have the score, where it's engraving scores and publication ready scoring is part of this system. The full tracks, mixing down, all of that. And now the third part is the AI instruments coming in and bringing those in and having it all seamlessly integrated. We have Windows and Apple. So, so I've, my computer crashes every day. But I have a survival technique where, okay, I'm just going to I back up files, this and that. I only lose a minute's work now when that happens. But again, scoring, producing, mixing, mastering, and the AI to have these choruses, to even have, I would love to be, have Peter Gabriel license a singer that I can buy and, $500. And I will have Peter Gabriel to put in my mixes. Michael McDonald with those silvery backup vocals for backup tracks, right? For yacht rock tracks, whomever, Adele, and so that's the third component that's coming out of the AI, that you will have these and people to make a living, hopefully, that are really talented because they're making music through a career, but let their voice, be out there and have commercial license to use it, and it'll be discernible. So that's the next 10 years here. And there's all these vendors, hundreds of vendors doing disparate things, and they clash and they don't work. So again, it's kind of a bringing together of the best practices and finding one operating system that's not being bloatware upgraded. The damn thing works so you can be productive. It's coming. It's coming.
Yeah.
So I kludge all of that together right now. I do music notation.
Okay. So you're
and I start
bringing all these pieces.
Yeah. Like I have here, I have my sketchbook, so I have, I write down the idea. I put that in a program number one, and I work in there and get it to really publication ready form, and I orchestrate it. I can orchestrate it there.
Okay.
And then I import that into the digital audio workstation, and those files come up and I arrange them and mess around. Unfortunately, here's an example. If I have a string part where they're playing legato, smooth things with some pizzicato short notes, I have to turn that into 2 tracks.
Oh.
Now you can use something called a key switch, and you hit a key, and for those notes, it's the short one, and then you hit the key switch and it plays the legato. So I don't like the key switch system. It's just not musical to me. And as I'm mixing it and looking at it on the mixing board, I need to see those short notes where they are. I need to see those long notes where they are when I'm arranging them. So again, it's individual styles of arranging and producing to go into this. So right now I have to take that track, the violin, first violin, and it's up there, and I copy it to a second track, and I delete all the legatos and just leave the pizzicatos. And then I go to the legato track and I delete the pizzicatos. And then I, have 2 violins short, and there it is. There's my complete violin part. And you could even do that to a third or a fourth level with other string techniques when you're doing string writing like that. So that's the level of control we have, and mix and master in there. Now, it's Steinberg came up with a system of plugins. They're called plugins, and you can bring them into the digital audio workstation now. And I have hundreds of them, and I've spent thousands of dollars on them. And those plugins need some uniformity and coalescing into a composer's, toolkit, called a composer's toolkit.
Okay.
So that I got my Beethoven's Ninth Choir. I've got my Berlin Philharmonic, I use the BBC Spitfire Audio as my main orchestral library, and I use Museo Cinesamples is my second orchestral library that I have, and I have lots of other instruments, but and so you layer and you put layers and you experiment with that, and then you add some synthesizers for the bass that you can add. Hans Zimmer is very accomplished and has led the way over the last decades of doing that kind of film scoring. So of course we study Hans's work, and it inspires us and provides techniques for production of music. So the sky's the limit, and but we need tools to help make it easier to use.
Okay. But even at this stage, you're able to produce some kind of finished product that you can give to someone else to listen to?
Absolutely.
Wow.
When it's past quality assurance, I'll send you a couple of tracks from the last 15 months of my retirement. I just started out very methodically. I did a four song cycle for soprano and piano in my undergraduate senior year. It was part of my senior thesis that I had to do. And a composer sets lyrics to music, and that's the traditional way. Great poets, like, we're not poets ourselves. We're just great composers, not great poets. But Richard Wagner wrote his own librettos. Anyway, so I set those, and I had a recording that's 40 years old. And I was able to separate the stems now. So I had the voice part and the piano part, and start doing an orchestral arrangement around them. So I just started that 15 months ago, and it was awful. Those mixes are terrible. They're not ready for prime time. You would get the idea if you heard them.
Yeah.
And but I'm getting better every month, and that's exciting to me as well. That's something to look forward to. So Grandma Moses, right? Charles Ives is another composer who had a heart attack in his 50s, retired, and then spent 20 years composing and made a name for himself as a composer. So you never know what's going to happen out there with your creative work. So just keep going for it.
Yeah, it can get discovered at any time. Any kind of work that stays behind, that you leave behind. Well, Paul, it's been really great talking to you today. Wow, we went through a lot of subjects. Maybe for just a last thing, you can give some advice to people, or share any tools or things you think might help people be able to get past a place where they're stuck.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. It's been great talking with you and catching up with you after all this time, and doing a repeat of our November session too, and hashing it out. But really, my toolbox as a human being is based on the Seth material, and that course I mentioned earlier gives it a nice introduction. If there's one book and you're dealing with relationship or personal issues, the nature of personal reality, it's the best-selling book, and it's written at a way to work with your beliefs, identifying, recognizing, and working with beliefs. And it's profoundly an important work, that you can do. And you can turn your life around wherever you are, no matter how desperate or difficult a situation you find yourself in. Know that this world is designed for your deepest fulfillment, and that you can find a way out of that darkness and that tunnel. And but you have to take the bull by the horns, and you have to make a commitment to making those changes and seeing it through. It takes at least 4 weeks daily practice to really get a new habit ingrained. You can't do it in 3 days. And there's all these we live in a quick fix society. So stay away from quick fixes. Okay. These are long-term things that you commit to and you build up to them, right? And you stick with it over time and you get your 10,000 hours of mastery. And eventually, no matter where you are in your journey, you can start something new at age 70, as I have in my recording studio here. So, um, yeah, it's been a pleasure talking with you, Jim, and many blessings to anyone who watches this. And feel free to reach out and contact me with any questions. I'm happy to engage at this point.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, Paul. It's really loved our conversation. James Ferrigno here. And it would be great if you guys could subscribe, like, follow whatever platform you're seeing this on, because that really helps me be able to continue the podcast. And so if you can do that, that would really help us out. Thanks a lot.